Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Post Race Special Show. We're definitely excited to have you all join us. Joe San Diego here, along with Toby Lambert from the Podium Finish and Jessica from Paddock Inside. Definitely was a big weekend. We have three championships coming in, and all three are wrapped up, plus a new leader in the grid ranking. We'll be starting out with Formula One, but surely we do want to also share the news that another championship was wrapped up this weekend. Esme Hockey, one of the drivers we feature on Grid Girls, won her championship in the Porsche Carrera Cup GT Pro AM. Of course, if you watch Grid Girls on the Grid Network, you know we've been talking about her quite a bit and her racing accomplishments throughout the year. So definitely a big congratulations to her. And we encourage everyone to tune into Grid Girls every Thursday right here on YouTube. And for all our viewers, we definitely invite you to participate in the chat room. We'd love to hear from you, hear your opinions and thoughts on everything. Now we're going to get started with Formula One, which was an early wake-up call for everyone. I know for us here in Portland at the Grid Network headquarters, it was a 2 a.m. start time, so it was very early, but it was definitely well worth it because we saw a historic day as we saw in the Turkish Grand Prix return for the first time since 2011 due to the pandemic. No fans in attendance, which is very unfortunate because we had a race that, in my opinion, I think will be a classic. And, of course, a historic crowning of a 7-time Formula One world champion. Jessica, Kobe, Lewis Hamilton started 6th place. 1 point appeared to be out of contention, but came through to win the race and his 7th championship title. Initial thoughts on what Lewis Hamilton did today?
Yes, he has an incredible driver. His physical and mental level far superior that of the rest of the drivers, and he has the car who respond to his demand. And it's not by a chance at all. He has a driver, and we know that he has more to give. If some point it seems to many that he get that hegemony of Mercedes and Hamilton, it's annoying, but cannot be denying he's one of the best athletes today in the world. So was amazing race for Lewis Hamilton. He deserved the championship, and I think he's now the best driver of the championship.
Yeah, definitely. It's been so amazing watching what Lewis Hamilton's been able to do throughout his racing career. And wow, 7 championships, that's definitely exclusive club. I guess we can start calling Lewis Hamilton old 7-time like we do Jimmy Johnson over here in the United States. But wow, this has been amazing. Just sitting here over the years, watching Lewis Hamilton go out there and dominate. And I know people try to discredit what Lewis has done by saying, he's just driving the best car and all of that. But still, we've seen drivers getting great cars and not do as well. So Lewis is a talented driver, and just having the best car just helps him along. But looking at the whole grand scheme of things with Lewis Hamilton's career, I think we're potentially witnessing one of the greatest Formula One drivers of all time, in my opinion. Well, guys, it looks like we lost Joe for a second, but looking at everything he was talking about, he was saying, Lewis Hamilton was, of course, the favorite to win the championship this year and definitely earned it today. Started in 6th place. Mercedes struggled with the tires this weekend. Saw a lot of crazy things. Valtteri Bottas night, and he was stuck behind the Ferrari Sebastian Vettel, who went from 12th to 4th on the start. What an incredible start by Sebastian Vettel. Ended up losing some time to Max Verstappen in both racing points, but Lewis Hamilton's experience came into play as everyone started to see the race change. I want to see we have Joe back. Joe, I'm going to let you continue on with your little speech.
Yeah, I was just going to say how it was really big seeing what Lewis Hamilton had done, get the championship, and overall, never thought I would saw Michael Schumacher's record being broken. Seeing Schumacher break those records, and now Lewis Hamilton break those records, that is huge. And of course, we had, I think as you were saying, a very eventful race with the start. And essentially, we saw how Lewis Hamilton, of course, essentially he had to race his teammate Bottas really hard, come up to the front. He was at one point losing time to Vettel's, as Vettel was ahead of him because Vettel went from 12th to 4th. Max Verstappen, he was, I think, in a good shape to get this race win, but then a move that Martin Brundle calls a big mistake. He spun, trying to pass Sergio Perez, fell behind Lewis, and essentially was under contention again. Now, the racing points, we saw Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll was trying to compete for his first win, but then, of course, we had said this yesterday, Jessica and I, on Grid Live pre-race, that it always seems Racing Points cannot deliver getting both race cars on the podium. Stroll had to pit for tires, was never in contention again, fell to 9th place, and was concerned about those tires that came into Lewis Hamilton's hand, going over 50 laps with those intermediate tires, which at the end looked pretty much like slick tires. No mistakes by Lewis. He takes a championship with, in my opinion, a championship performance. Sergio Perez holds on to 2nd place. Vettel's 3rd place, first podium of the year. A big surprise to say his first podium of the year, but the conditions really favored him. Of course, we all know Charles Leclerc got up to 2nd place, but went wide, lost position to Perez and Vettel. Now, yesterday, of course, we mentioned about Racing Point and their issues again, both cars on the podium. Today, we only saw Sergio Perez on the podium alongside Vettel, who is, of course, going to replace him. Is this the Racing Point making a mistake and letting Perez go and keeping Lance Stroll, considering next year and how we just saw Perez put in a good performance today?
I think they have already made a decision, and the podium will not make back down. The team and the driver have different aspirations, and Racing Point wants to be higher and higher, and also more constant. They want to reach Mercedes. I think a good decision for all the things for Racing Point for the next season.
I don't necessarily think it's a mistake keeping Lance Stroll. I do think that Lance Stroll often gets a lot of hate from the fans and everybody else, but because Lance Stroll obviously comes from a lot of money, especially with his father Lawrence Stroll being his team owner over at Racing Point. Yeah. But overall, when you're looking at both drivers, I think Lance Stroll doesn't get the respect that he deserves, but I think that may happen over time. But I do think it's a huge mistake to let Sergio Perez go, because you give Sergio Perez a car that's competitive, he can go out there and get the results. And yeah, it's always great bringing Sebastian Vettel into your program, but if Sergio Perez isn't on the grid next season, it'll be quite a shame, because he's such a talented driver. And now we know what he can do when he's in a great car.
Yeah, we know what Sergio Perez could do in a great car. It's just going to be one of those things where we'll be interesting to see what happens, and I will agree with both of you. Lance Stroll is a good racer. He didn't just, get there because of Hamilton connection. He still raced lower levels. At one point with Chip Ganassi, was racing in the United States. And overall, I just feel this is more Racing Point. They just can't seem to get the deal done against both cars on the podium. Now, one team that didn't get the job done today, Red Bull. They looked very fast yesterday. Both of them started up front, but we saw how Max Verstappen was very upset not to get on the pole. First lap, he fell to 3rd place on the first lap. Then he spun twice in the race, was out of contention for the race. Alex Albon was fast, at one point catching up to the Red Racing Points, but then he spun out. My question to both of you, I know we were talking about last week Racing Point trying to respond back. Is Racing Point starting to put too much pressure on themselves, and how did they rebound?
I think Red Bull need to find the cause that will lead to be the more competitive. And I say more because you have to work a lot to catch up with Mercedes. Verstappen is a very talented driver. Sometimes he loses his mind a bit, but he's young and he has a great talent. Things have not turning out well for Alex Albon, and Christian Horner wants immediately results for his team.
Yeah, Red Bull definitely putting a lot of pressure on themselves, especially Alex Albon, because his future is really up in the air in Formula One. We don't know what Red Bull's gonna do. I'm sure we're getting to that time of year now where we're finally gonna start hearing an official word from Red Bull. Are they going to bring back Alex Albon? Give him another year, or are they going to go out and get a free agent? Like Sergio Perez or Nico Hulkenberg. And if Albon gets demoted, is he gonna replace Danny Kvyat alongside Pierre Gasly at AlphaTauri, or is that seat gonna go to Yuki Tsunoda? Yes, if I'm Alex Albon, I'm definitely not sleeping well at all right now because a lot of pressure being a Red Bull driver.
The pressure of being a Red Bull driver, Max Verstappen, even though he's the number one driver, still has to be the pressure of you have to deliver. They're expecting you to go out there and win, not just to go out there and get second and third place, especially to Racing Point. So definitely it was just one of those things where I feel the pressure is getting there. Max, he has to keep his head cool. As Jessica mentioned, don't lose your mind. That move he tried to do today, as Martin Brundle said, wasn't that great of the moves. If he had to wait another lap, we might have been talking about a Max Verstappen victory today. Now, of course, we have 3 races remaining in Formula One. 2 at Bahrain, Abu Dhabi. Both championships are wrapped up, essentially, for the constructors and, of course, the drivers. So right now, everybody's only going for wins. Does this make it where Lewis Hamilton is going to be even harder to beat because he's just going to go out there and try to win?
I think yes, because it will be more with the pressure of the championship, and we have to know Bottas is not very strong with the Mercedes. We saw that in the race today. I think Lewis Hamilton could be the winner of the next 3 races in the championship.
I don't think it necessarily is going to make him harder to beat, but basically they're just going to be going out there and racing for fun and for some racing for their Formula One lives, like Alex Albon, and for others who are going to be out of Formula One, possibly like Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen. They're just going to be racing for pride and just try to end your Formula One tenure on a high note.
Yeah, racing for pride. Everyone's just. It's really interesting because we know Racing Point is in the battle for third in the constructors. They'll love to get that. But for Lewis Hamilton, just go out there and get wins. I think we're really going to see where now Mercedes. Today we saw how Lewis Hamilton overruled Mercedes about the safe pit stop staying out there. Big thing was, of course, the championship. It would have been safe to just wrap up the championship, get a pit stop. Lewis Hamilton stayed out. Again, another championship call. But definitely, I would feel one of the big things is with Lewis Hamilton, these next couple races, he's going to be hard to beat, always hard to beat. And now with the championship wrapped up, they're just focused on going out there and getting wins. Speaking about winning was a big deal for one championship in particular last night at the IMSA Sebring 12 Hours.
Yeah, it was a really thrilling end to the IMSA season with the 68 running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. And on our pre-race program yesterday, we talked about the LMP2 and GTLM titles been wrapped up. And LMP2 is Patrick Kelly from PR1 Matheson Motorsports, and then GTLM Antonio Garcia and Jordan Taylor from Corvette Racing. However, DPI and GTD still had some business to sell. Overall, this race was definitely peak 2020. Lots of action and drama, which started right from the drop of the green flag. Ringer van der Zande got penalized for changing lanes before crossing the start finish line. Got a drive-through penalty there, and Wayne Taylor Racing had to play catch up from the very start. And later on in the race, IndyCar champion Scott Dixon got turned by Oliver Jarvis in the number 77 Mazda, causing a damage and a puncture, which led the number 10 Cadillac DPI going to the garage and lost multiple laps. However, they still had a chance to steal the title late if manufacturer orders were to be followed in the Cadillac camp. NBC camera showed team owner Wayne Taylor chatting with the 2 other Cadillac teams, Action Express Racing and JDC Miller Motorsports. And there was some speculation on the broadcast that Wayne actually wanted those 2 teams to pull aside and allow his team to make up the laps to pass them in order to win the DPI championship. And if that would have happened, Wayne Taylor Racing would be the champions. And luckily, John DeGeese from Sports Car 365 got the scoop from Wayne himself. And according to Sports Car 365, Wayne Taylor asked his fellow Cadillac colleagues for help. And Joe, I know we've talked a lot about team orders on our program recently, and we know many people don't like it at all. could you imagine the reaction if Wayne Taylor had convinced Action Express and JDC to pull off the track or something in the closing stages of the race, effectively just giving them the championship?
That is something where I feel if that was to occur, that's a little bit beyond just team orders. This is where I would feel, using the NASCAR term, you're manipulating the results of the race. You're going to essentially other teams and telling them, hey, can you do us a favor because we're trying to get a championship. This will be big for us all as Cadillac. I can't imagine if we're in a scenario where if in Formula One you have Alfa Romeo, Haas leading. That'd be a really bizarre situation. But then if Ferrari, hey, we're in third place, can you let us go by since we're the primary Ferrari engine supplier and we want to try to beat Racing Point in the Constructor Championships. It was just something where, of course, going for the championships, try to pull all the stops. But I felt if this plan was to go through, if I was them, I would start investigating because I feel this is more than just team orders.
Yeah, definitely more than team orders on Twitter. I call them manufacturer orders. And here's the thing I want to look at with this situation. Wayne Taylor Racing is an outgoing Cadillac team because I'm gonna be switching to Acura. And why would the two Cadillac teams help a team that's not going to be in the Cadillac stable next year? And also, if this would have happened, probably wouldn't have worked out well for Wayne, considering he is going to Acura next year. And imagine if those two Cadillacs had pulled off the track, and then give Wayne Taylor the championship and end up taking the championship away from Acura, and that definitely wouldn't be a classy exit from Cadillac, and going to Acura next year, that probably wouldn't be good at all, because if the championship was taken away from them that way, especially if you're going to be an Acura DPI organization next year. And another team that lost out on the DPI title was Action Express Racing and Pippo Durrani. The number 31 Willys Engineering Cadillac DPI looked strong for much of the race, and it really seemed like they would be fighting for the overall win until a driver's emotions proved to be detrimental to their title hopes. Juan Pablo Montoya and Pippo Durrani were having a mega scrap for the overall lead. Montoya's Acura hit Durrani's Cadillac hard, and that seemed to really tick off Pippo and set him off. And Pippo ran down Montoya, and I'm going to be honest, Joe, he absolutely wiped him out. That's what I call a bump and run or a dump and run. And while it cannot be confirmed, it certainly looked very intentional. And that move reminded me something you see on a NASCAR short track. And Pippo was penalized, rightfully so, and that really ended his title hopes. And NBC tried to interview Pippo, but in their words, I quote, he respectfully declined and needed time to cool off from the incident. And since a little dust up at Petit Le Mans with Ricky Taylor in the 10th post racing, we've seen quite a temper coming from Pippo Durrani. And it's actually been a little shocking and unusual, since he's always been a driver who's been really quiet but also incredibly fast. Now it seems like all of the frustrations are starting to boil over. Is it safe to say that his temper got the best of him here?
Easily, the tempers got the best of him here. One of the things, of course, if you were watching the NBC broadcast, when this was all starting to go down between the two, you could hear the commentators. They were right away talking about this is getting out of hand, this is getting out of control. The race officials need to step in. This isn't like NASCAR where there are stock cars, short tracks, and the racing equipment we see in NASCAR is designed to take the beating and banging at a short track, bump drafting. These cars, okay, you could get away with some contact, but not the kind of contact that we were seeing. And it showed with Pippo essentially having an issue with the steering following the contact. I think the IMSA officials did the right thing, and here's a penalty. That's not cool in our book. We don't want to see that here, and especially sports car racing. I feel it's a much different breed of racing. This isn't the kind of stuff we see. It sort of reminds me of when Lewis Hamilton, Vettel's got into contact into a safety car. For fans that watch NASCAR, oh, that's just part of racing. For everybody else, no, that's uncool. And I feel Sebring, the IMSA folks, did the right call.
Yeah, over in NASCAR, that type of stuff, hey, he'd be like, hey, that's fine, that's part of the culture in NASCAR and short track racing. But in sports car racing, culture's different. Yeah, in whether it's different garages, different paddocks, the culture is different everywhere. And in this culture of sports car racing, wiping out somebody like that is not cool at all. And definitely uh, Pippo's tempers really got the best of him there, and ended up ruining his own championship hopes. Even if he would have went out there and won the race, might have he still might have not won the championship. But if he had won and some things fallen away, he could have still won. And yeah, and he was fighting for the lead with Montoya. The number 31 Williams Engineering Cadillac DPI was really fast and competitive, and that move right there ended what could have been a really great night for him. And now we're looking 76 days until the Rolex 24. Should Pippo use the gap between now and Daytona as a timeout to reset?
Easily, he needs to just focus on what he's been good at, and that is driving really fast, being competitive, and putting the team in position to win. Put this behind you. This is a mistake. Yes, it's going to live on the internet forever for everyone to see it, but don't make it become a distraction. Make it as a source of, okay, this was my lowest moment. I'm going to rebound, come back, and try to get a championship for myself, the team, and redemption.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at everything Pippo's accomplished in his young career now, it's like wow, Pippo Durrani is definitely one of the most talented sports car racing drivers in the world. Yeah, and he's really fast, and before all of this happened, that's how a lot of people define Pippo Durrani as a young talented driver who who has so much to accomplish. Yet, there's a lot he's going to accomplish in the upcoming years. And now with all of this incident following Petit Le Mans, he had every right to be mad at Ricky Taylor because he was going for the win, and he got wiped out by Taylor there. Yeah, and I totally understand the anger coming from Petit Le Mans, but it seems like now all of it's just starting to boil over, and it's getting to what I'm going to call danger zone here, and it just shows that although Pippo has already accomplished a lot in his sports car racing career, there's still a lot that he has to learn, and he has to grow as well, because if you let incidents like this happen and you lose your temper so easily, you're going to keep losing out on championships and missing key race wins in your career. So I do think that this is a good time and to end the season. 76 days until we start the 2021 IMSA season at Daytona. But this could be a great time for Pippa to just sit back, reflect, talk with some people in the sports car racing community who have his back, and just basically focus on just calming down and improving his mindset heading into the 2021 season. And ultimately, this handed the DPI title over to Acura Team Penske, Ricky Taylor, and Helio Castroneves. And to my surprise, Joe, I learned that Helio Castroneves had never, ever won a championship before Sebring. Considering everything he has accomplished, it actually left me kind of stunned. How fitting is it that Helio got his first ever title in his final race driving for Team Penske?
He has to feel pretty good, He has the Indianapolis 500 wins. I feel that ranks up there with championships. Of course, it's weird to say you won the Indianapolis 500 so many times, but no championships to prove that. Well, now at least he can say, I got a sports car championship IMSA with Penske. Of course, with Penske, I've noticed it always seems the drivers really want to perform for Roger Penske. They want to really bring the results for him because they not only give him the opportunity, but he always seems to have a good reputation of being loyal to the race car drivers for bringing results. So for him to last race working with you, different area from where I started. I started with kart with Penske, IndyCar, now sports car. I'm bringing this championship. This is for you, Roger, and thank you, Roger, for what it's been for his career.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those special endings, and I'm still in shock that Helio hadn't won a championship before this, but now Helio Castroneves is a champion, and yeah, and definitely bittersweet leaving Team Penske, but at least they have a championship in DPI to celebrate with before Helio moves on to the next thing, and we all know Helio's gonna be running part time in IndyCar next year with Meyer Shank Racing. Yeah, and we'll see in the future if that part time opportunity at Meyer Shank will ever turn into maybe he'll make a return later in his career to full time IndyCar racing. And also we'll have to wait and see if we'll be doing some more endurance racing in IMSA. And looking at the rest of the field, Oliver Jarvis was leading late in the number 77 Mazda. And Joe, this was your pick of winner. And I remember during our pre-race program, I was shocked when you picked Mazda, but it actually looked like that you were going to get on the board here. But however, that wasn't the case because Jarvis locked up the tires and had a puncture, and this ended up ruining his chances at winning. Luckily, their sister car was running second and passed them for the overall lead. And the number 55 Mazda DPI held on to win the 68 running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring with Harry Tinknell, Jonathan Bomarito, and IndyCar driver Ryan Hunter-Ray. And PR1 Matheson Motorsports dominated LMP2 with Patrick Kelly, Simon Trummer, and Scott Huffaker. However, this team had a scary moment with Patrick Kelly behind the wheel earlier in the race. Kelly was trying to overtake Nicky Katzberg in the number 3 Corvette on the long straight. However, Katzberg threw a huge block on Kelly, running him into the marbles. And typically, this kind of move ticks off drivers. Then Kelly made contact with Katzberg as both drivers went spinning after that big block. And I'm not sure if this was intentional by Kelly, but it wouldn't surprise me if Katzberg's block really upset him. However, this didn't really impact Patrick Kelly's race at all as they went on to win the class and also the championship. And in the final race in GTLM, the Porsche factory team pulled off a shock 1-2 result after class leader Connor De Filippi got hit by a GTD car in the closing minutes. The number 911 Porsche of Nick Tandy, Fred McAwicki, and Earl Bamber claimed the victory. And Earl Bamber actually finished first and second because he shared the number 912 Porsche with Neil Yanni and Lawrence Van Thor. Yeah, shout out to the driver parent of Earl Bamber and Lawrence Van Thor. We'll all miss Bam Thor, one of the most awesome driver parents in recent memory in IMSA. Considering the awful season that Porsche's had, it's safe to say that it's such a sweet feeling to go out on top as winners and fall on a fierce final restart. We saw a lot of contact, and as Calvin Fitch always says, argy bargy. The number 16 Wright Motorsports Porsche held on to win GTD with Patrick Long, Ryan Hartwick, and Jan Halen. Although this wasn't enough to win the GTD title, Meyer Shank Racing held on as Mario Farnbacher and Matt McMurray won the GTD championship. And yesterday, the FIA World Endurance Championship ended their season with the 8 hours of Bahrain and crowned their champions in LMP1. It was the number 7 Toyota Gazoo racing. Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jose Maria Lopez in LMP2. Number 22 United Autosports, Felipe Albuquerque and Phil Hansen. GTE Pro number 95 Aston Martin racing, Nicky Tim, Marco Sorensen, and GTE AM number 83 AF Corsa Ferrari, Francois Perotto, Emmanuel Collard, and Nicholas Nielsen. And with that concludes our Sebring coverage. Next, we'll talk some MotoGP with Jessica.
That's right, because continuing the championship weekend, MotoGP has a new champion. For the first time since 2015, it's not Marc Marquez. Joan Mir is the 2020 World Champion of MotoGP. A 7th place finish wrapped up the championship. Enjoy Did Mir deliver a championship performance today?
Yes, he did. I know, compared to what we saw Lewis Hamilton do today, Mir, he knew, go out there, run your race. Run a good race. And he's been good all year at finishing in the top 10. We know at the beginning of the season he had those 2 off-course incidents in the first 3 races, but since then he's always been consistent, which is something all the other riders are really lacking. He went out there from starting outside the top 10, he was in 10th. Then got to 9th, 8th, 7th. Didn't need to push it too much harder, just focus on the bigger picture, get the championship. As we saw with what happened with the other riders, particularly Quartararo, that wasn't a championship performance on his part at all.
That's right. His main title contender, Fabio Quartararo, didn't deliver a good race today. Quartararo first lap went Whitefield to last place and started the long World Cup. Was up to 18th place, but with 18 laps to go, he went out after seeding of the track in the Tour 6 And Kobe, what does Quartararo do to rebound this weekend?
Well, looking at him, I think the best thing that he needs to do is just reset, because race didn't go the way you want it. And we've seen this, for many years, many drivers where they just have a race where they were just totally off, and everything just went wrong, and nothing went right. But I think the best thing that he can do is just put this bad race behind him, completely forget about it, and be like, moving on to a new race weekend, and I'm gonna have a good day next time around.
Now, something new about around table discussion about the MotoGP 2020 season. Being a very different season, in MotoGP, Mir won the championship with one win and consistency. Thoughts on a champion only winning in one race?
I don't really have a problem with that at all. Mir didn't go out and completely dominate the season by winning multiple races like we've seen in the past. But hey, he got one win. He got the championship, and consistency was rewarded. And I think that's great when you're looking at how authentic the championship battle was.
See, it's the most. That was the most difficult season. The championship has due to the pandemic, but also had several incidents that made the championship more interesting. Marc Marquez injury. Not yet know when he will return to the track. Like different winners, drivers who have tested positive, such as Valentino Rossi and Iker Lecuona. So it was a very difficult and very strange championship for MotoGP in 2020. Then we will see what happened for the next season. The most important news is all what happened to the Marc Marquez with Honda, because he don't know what's going on with his arm. If maybe he will need a new injury in his arm.
Yeah, one of the big things, I think, as you were mentioning with Marc Marquez, it is something where it is a lot of unknowns. I know a lot of people are anticipating with Marc Marquez coming back, he's just going to be a dominant factor. But the big thing is there's just so much we don't know about it. At the end, I think it's going to be a really big question mark on what happens next year with MotoGP.
Definitely. It's gonna be really crazy watching what's gonna happen next year in MotoGP, especially with Marc Marquez coming back. Are we gonna see Marc Marquez come back, with vengeance, and go out there and completely dominate, or are we gonna see a lot more parity like we've seen this year? It's certainly gonna be interesting to watch.
That's right. Then next year, we assume Marc Marquez will be back and hard to beat with Honda, Yamaha new bike for the factory, Quartararo joining the factory team, Ducati new rider, and Suzuki and Mir defending the champion. Next year, how important is it for Suzuki and Mir to come out and win more races next year?
It's going to be very important. I know there's a lot of unknowns about what's going to happen with Marc Marquez coming back next year. Will he still be the dominant force we always seen since his rookie year when he won the championship? We can't just assume, he's not going to be that big of a threat. But with Suzuki, our goal, we have to go out there and we have to win more races, because we might see a strong Honda, strong Marc Marquez. They're going to be hard to beat. They'll be going for wins. If Yamaha has a good bike in 2021, and with Fabio Vinales, both of them in the factory team, they could be really powerful and hard to beat if the Yamaha has a good team next year. So overall, it's going to be one of those things where we're going to have a really good season in next year. I'm super excited, but the big thing for especially Suzuki, and I would say almost for everyone, they have to look at this year and say, okay, where do we miss the winning opportunities, and how do we come back and get some wins?
Yeah, they'll definitely have to regroup over the offseason and figure out how they're going to improve that program for next year, just like a lot of other teams in the series and other series all around the world. And now taking a look at the grid ranking and World Motorsport League, while a lot of championships are already over in the world, I think most are. The grid ranking and in the World Motorsport League are not over. Starting with the grid ranking between Lewis Hamilton and Scott McLaughlin. Hamilton won from sixth place on the grid, got him the lead, and two more race wins, and he'll end up clinching the grid ranking world championship, or one more second place finish and two third place finishes would secure it. And Grid World Motorsport League is again all in. It is again all in Lewis Hamilton's hands. Lewis had to win the remaining races in Formula One to win the WML championship, and Phil Hansen's fourth place finish ensured the lead, but still allows Hamilton. Joe, has anyone won both the Grid World Ranking and the Grid World Motorsport League, and how are Lewis's chances at winning both?
Lewis's chances of winning both are really good. We saw what he's been able to do today from starting sixth place. Unless we have more, and of course we're going to Bahrain and Abu Dhabi, unless we have crazy rain, wet weather, another race like Monza, I don't see why Lewis can't go out there and win the next three races. With that said, though, of course, if Valtteri Bottas was to win one race, Max Verstappen pushed Lewis down to third place, that could cost him the Grid World Motorsport League. Of course, the Grid World Motorsport League has a lot of drivers in various levels, so definitely he has to try to go out there and just get those wins. In the grid ranking, I feel Lewis Hamilton, essentially 2 wins, he gets the World Grid Ranking World Championship. If he doesn't get the 2 wins, at least 1 second place and 2 third place finishes will secure him the World Championship for the grid ranking. So definitely it's very much in reach for Lewis Hamilton to both of the grid ranking and World Motorsport League.
And before we close our program, time for our grid one shining moment. Joy and Kobe, what is your biggest takeaway from this weekend of racing?
For me, I think the big shining moment of the weekend has to be essentially what we saw at the MotoGP race. Joan Mir, second year, go out there, win the championship, put in a great effort. We saw what happened with Quartararo. He could have easily made a mistake like that, being so young, 23 years old, for Suzuki, first time since 2000. I definitely say that would be the shining moment. Of course, I also have to acknowledge what Lewis Hamilton did, 7 championship. That's huge as well.
Yeah, that's definitely huge. And my biggest takeaway from the weekend was actually something that brought back some terrible memories. At some point during the Turkish Grand Prix, during the racing weekend, they had the crane out there recovering one of the cars and on a hot track, and that brought back terrible memories a few years ago at Suzuki with Jules Bianchi. And I thought it was extremely irresponsible for Formula One to have the crane out on the track recovering a car while the Formula One cars were zooming by on a hot track. And it made me think, have we not learned anything from the Jules Bianchi incident? It was a very upsetting sight to see that, considering what has happened in the past. And I just thought we were better than that, and we learned from the Jules Bianchi incident.
That's right. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Especially thank you to Colin for our pattern. And we encourage you to invite Ingrid Network. For Joy and Kobe, I'm Jessica. Thank you for watching.